Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Black Expat Experience, a live podcast highlighting the lived experiences of Black expats around the world. I'm Kendall Tyson, your host, licensed therapist and fellow Black expat. I'm back in Beijing, home from vacation, and we have another phenomenal episode in store for you today. And I would like to welcome Ashley Shepherd to the show. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, how are you?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. I hardly get that.
Yeah.
All right. So we are so excited to have you on the show today. And I definitely want to give you an opportunity to kind of give us like your elevator pitch, who you are, where are you in the world, and what does that look like? Like, how are you living your life right now?
Right. So I am actually Cheron. Actually, I got married 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Cheron.
Yeah.
Okay, the thing says Shepherd. Let me get it right.
Yeah, on all of my logins, it says Shepherd. So you are right. And I still use it here to this day here in Dubai. So I got married a few years ago, and legally here in this country, I am Ashley Shepherd. So I've been in Dubai, or Abu Dhabi, I should say, for 6 years now.
Wow.
This is my 15th year in education, and I'm just living life here in the UAE. It is home away from home. It's my first international stop, and I just love it.
Oh
Love
my
it, love it.
goodness. Well, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you'll have to send me the appropriate spelling of your upgraded name, so we can make sure all the marketing is correct. But
For
okay,
sure.
so interesting. So you're in Abu Dhabi.
Yes, Abu Dhabi.
Abu Dhabi, 6 years, 15 years of education. Your story sounds very similar to mine.
Yeah.
First international birth in China. I just started my 6th year. I just started my 16th year in education. Not married yet. Hopefully that happens soon. We'll see about that.
Yeah.
But oh my gosh, so I love it. And I'm curious about, when did you know that you were open to going abroad and that you were actually going to put some footwork behind making that happen?
Right. So for years, like in my 20s, I had this idea of, okay, I'm going to go and like at least study abroad, or I'm going to go teach English in Korea. I had a lot of friends that were leaving the States and just doing different abroad opportunities. And so those dreams of going during university kind of got crushed. I switched majors several times. And so I was like, okay, what really is my focus? And so I actually finalized my final major, which was in education, graduated, and went to grad school, and just life, right? So the whole abroad idea was in the back of my brain. A little bit of background knowledge about me is that I am a military brat. So I grew up in Germany when I was younger. Yeah, so I was in Germany from when I was around 1 until I was around 5.
Okay.
And my dad was in the Army, moved to North Carolina. I was originally, so I was born in Detroit, moved to Germany right after I was born, moved to North Carolina, and then I call myself a Texas native because I moved to Texas when I was around 7 years old. So I call Texas home. It is home, Killeen, Texas. And then I spent my majority of my 20s living in Dallas. So I call Dallas home as well.
Okay.
So I had the itch to go abroad. I wasn't nervous, I wasn't it wasn't anything that was like a big thing for me. But it was just a wondering of like how, like you said, the footwork of it.
Yeah.
So then around year 9, I got the itch to leave Dallas altogether. And I was like, all right, I'm having this need to go somewhere. Where is it? I don't know, but I want to just change scenery. And it wasn't anything. It was just, I had hit just a career wall in the organization that I had worked in at the time. I worked for a charter school. And I had hit this wall of like, also, all right, dating life here in Dallas is not all that great. So can I leave and kind of figure out things
Like,
somewhere else? Right. So then I had dinner with a friend that knew of someone that lived here in Dubai, in the UAE. And so I said, that's interesting, because I had always thought that it was only an opportunity to go to China or to Korea. I had never known that anyone was here teaching in the UAE, let alone anyone that was Black.
Yeah.
So,
and it's lots of Black people.
Exactly. So I had no clue. So she was telling me about all these things, events, and just life here, and how safe the country is, and how, it is the Middle East, though, at the end of the day. But the quality of life, the salary packages were amazing. And so I just applied. I applied later on, because, the international hiring season typically starts in October.
Right.
So I started to apply probably around January, after Christmas. And so I applied to certain positions. I went through an agency, so they were giving me different jobs, and I was like, I don't know about this. Some of the locations, some of the job descriptions were very interesting, and I went into this not really having anybody by my side, so I joined a Facebook group. And then the Facebook group was able to tell me yes, no, no to this. Go here, go to Thai Online, go to Search Associates, go to those websites and those portals that will allow you to find a quality job. And so I was able to do that, got a few job offers, prayed about it, and I got the current school that I'm at now late in the game. Around May of 2018, they called me, went through some interview processes, literally sold everything in my apartment, packed up everything, moved with my mom for a few months, or for a few weeks, around a month perhaps. And then I flew to the UAE, and I've been here ever since. So that's my journey.
I love it. Oh my gosh. It sounds so similar to mine. Oh my God. And I feel, not about me, but I'm just saying, I feel the connection. Yeah. When I tell you, I was in Houston, and it was like the third year of my first counseling position, and it was that job. I learned a lot, I grew, but it was not without hidden wounds. And I'll tell you, I was like, okay, I know I'm moving. I know I'm leaving. I had already resigned. I didn't know where I was going. Like, I know I'm leaving. I never do that. Black people don't leave no job without having another job. We just don't do that.
Exactly.
Under duress, you hear me? And I was like, I know I'm moving. Like, I know I'm leaving. Like, I know this is not what it's meant to be. And which makes it so, as I look back on hindsight, and I've been, on Twitter a lot lately, and there's been so many posts about Black women dying at work, and just all the stress from working in education and in higher academia, and just a lot of stuff that I think, we experience on a day-to-day basis that makes life a bit more challenging. And luckily, friends that I had who had already gone abroad, they were like, okay, this is year 2. We've been trying to get you over here. Let's make this thing happen. Interviews, boom, boom, boom. I literally got the job on my mom's birthday, which let me know, okay, this is for you, right? I had no fear about it. No, like, are you sure? I was like, nope, I'm out, because I knew it was something. I didn't know it'd be a whole nother continent, but it's like, when you know. And I'm wondering, like, what has thriving, if you were to just sit back and kind of reflect on thriving back in the US, and Texas is, for all intents and purposes, a pretty good place to live. I pray we get different leadership, Lord knows, because it could be a great place. It could be a phenomenal place to live. But, if you were to think about, like, thriving in Dallas, 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 and now you compare that 6 years later to upgraded, thriving in Abu Dhabi, what would you share? Like, what do you notice?
I think that I would notice just quality of life. I think that when I say quality of life, I think about all aspects, such as, like, just my job, like you just talked about, my job itself. I feel like socially. There's more of an opportunity for me to connect on a deeper level. I feel like in the States, people are so busy and going, and I mean, I'm a part of that, right? Like of like
Right.
just hanging out with my family and not really truly building community. When you're overseas, you have to be intentional about building your community, about
Yeah.
building friendships and everything. And so I think going back to the job aspect is that I feel like I truly grew as an educator being here. So it's a little good and a little bad. So like, you know, coming to a school that you had people from different areas and different
Right.
pedagogy
Cultures.
ideas. And it was interesting because it allowed me to know, oh wow, like I actually am grateful for the training that I had previously to coming here.
Yeah.
I am, you know, very knowledgeable. Like you know, I felt like I had a lot of imposter syndrome in the States. And then coming here, I felt like I was appreciated. I felt like my knowledge was taken as a not as a threat, but as a
Asset.
reminder,
Right.
or yeah, or as an asset. I felt like yeah, but at the same time, it was difficult having conversations with coworkers that may not have the same. I mean, we're speaking the same language, but it's tomato and tomato. So I have a lot of coworkers from the UK, a lot of coworkers from Canada, and we're all saying the same things. But we all work at an American Common Core school. So at the end of the day, we are teaching these state standards, right?
Right.
The standards. So I felt like that thriving in my job aspect has really helped me to not second guess myself. I feel more empowered being here. I feel more supported being here. I know in the States it was really hard to, you know, sometimes speak in a room full of people because it was like, oh, she's being aggressive, or oh, she's, you know, she's not necessarily knowledgeable. I'm going to play her. I'm going to say what I, you know, I'm going to the microaggressions and stuff. And so
Ooh.
coming here was more so of like, wow, you have knowledge. Can you speak about that? Can you do this PD for me? Or can
Yep.
you know, come meet with this team? I remember when I first came, I was actually pitched to go and do a literacy cohort. I traveled the world for 2 years and became a literacy coach because I was came to and say, hey, you have this knowledge and we want it, we want you to utilize it here at our campus. So I
Yeah.
want you to go take this experience. And so I traveled to Bangkok, I traveled to Oman, I traveled to I can't even think right now. India. I didn't go to China. I was going to say China, but India. So I had a cohort of, it was around 15 of us, and I traveled with them for 2 years to different international schools all over.
Wow.
Um, yeah, through NISA. So it was a really great experience for me to have. But I was pitched to come do this because they said, "Hey, you have this knowledge, and we want to hone it. We want to craft it." So I think just being able to kind of get that different side of work has been so beneficial for me over the years, and I'm just so grateful for it. And then
Yeah.
socially, just like being able to meet people from all over the world, like you know, when you move from the U.S. And I can say for me, um, I was very can't think of the word, not immature, but I was very
Naive.
naive. Yes. And I was very closed-minded to the world outside of the US. And it sounds so bad. And like I had conversations
No.
with friends too, and I'm like, we're so not brainwashed, but we are so closed off to the rest of the world growing up in America.
Yeah.
And being able to have these conversations with my South African friends and, you know, listening to their perspective on apartheid, you know, like different things that I did not ever learn or know
Right.
about. As an educator, I was just like, why do I not know this? And so with that part of thriving socially is also something that I'm so grateful for it. I'm now more aware of the world globally than ever than before.
I love all this for you. Like it it feels really good to hear you live the recognition of like your skills, right? It feels so good to hear that others have seen like the fruit of what you have toiled for, cried about, been
Yeah.
frustrated about, you know, really have tried to hone your skills and things, and then to be able to go to another continent, another country, school, and people see it immediately. It is another it does something for your self-esteem, and it kind of is like okay, I am not the problem. Even though I knew then I wasn't the problem, this is like confirmation that I'm not the issue. The system is the issue. And, you know, as I say this, that certainly doesn't mean that working in international schools as a knowledgeable, outspoken Black woman cannot be problematic, because it can be hella problematic. Hey. Let me just be honest.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to lie. It still has been problematic. It hasn't been sunshine and butterflies. Ooh. But as a whole, I can't complain.
Yeah. Because first off, like here in China, my housing covered, you know, insurance, can travel the world, which I'm doing next week. I'm gone for a week. Workshop opportunities, the opportunity to up your professional profile within your school, ecosystem, and then internationally is what I absolutely love. So it just sounds as if you're able to like dial up the things that maybe there was a desire for you to do back home. However, we know people's egos and things really can play a part in us being able to move forward. And again, it doesn't mean it's not present in an international school, because it is. But
it is.
It's very present. And I hate to stop. I hate the typecast. We'll save that for another part of the conversation. I want to ask you, some things that came up with what you shared earlier are really foundational to the work as a licensed clinician, a school counselor, educator that I do and focus a lot on. And it is really recognizing how important our cultural differences are, the effects of imposter syndrome, and not necessarily through the lens of, am I good enough? But also through the lens of, this system is structured in a way that makes me, that I respond to maybe not feeling good enough, right? Because of maybe who's in leadership or who's not, maybe whose voices are the loudest, and those who dissent the most, maybe through what does our population look like and how does that help me grow as a professional. So really honing in on, how did you recognize that you may have been, I think you said this more so back in the States than here or where you are in Abu Dhabi. How do you heal from that?
Ooh.
I know, it's, girl, listen.
I'm loaded. Like I'm there's so many ways. I'm still healing from that.
Yes.
There are moments, like you said, that I have flashbacks when something happens. Because like you said, it's not all sunshine where I'm at.
Yeah.
But I can't complain. And it's a lot better than where I was before. Yeah. So I'm forever grateful. I think truly being able to tap into my mental health is one thing that I am able to do, to be able to maintain any type of presence of, if I do pop up with imposter syndrome, because it still happens, right? Like if something pops up that makes me feel less than, I really focus on my well-being, finding different things or different ways or different strategies that I can use to help me get through. Because I think that this will forever be a thing, right? Of us Black women having to work twice as harder than anyone else to continue to prove ourselves. I was in a meeting last week and I can think about the strategies that I've used in order to help myself get through.
Yeah.
Also guard my mental health as well as is something that I've done, or strategies I've learned over the years to help me push through. I think also thinking about the gratitude side of things. It's something that also I rely on heavily. I do believe in a higher being. I'm Christian, so I do rely on that quite a lot to get me through. Bible verse right on my laptop. I'm going into that meeting and I'm like, you know what?
Listen,
I got to get through it and I have to
post a
have
note
this for it. Yes. So I think my faith also kind of pushes me through some of those moments as well. But I think it's always a constant thing, right? That you are pushed to go back into that space of the microaggressions, to go back into that space of imposter syndrome, but also know that it's getting better, and you're able to kind of like depend on that gratefulness and that gratitude, I should say, and then also just your relationship with whoever you believe, whatever higher being you believe in.
Yeah, I like all of those really practical ways in which to engage with like yourself and prioritize mental health, how you're connecting your higher source, whomever, whatever that may look like, all of those, what we call like the spokes of wellness, community for sure.
Yes.
You did touch on something earlier about being really intentional about just kind of widening the aperture of connection and the people in your life. And I'm curious, like, what would you share? What subject do you teach?
I teach everything. So I teach grade 4. So I teach primary right now.
How did the parents respond to you? I'm always interested in that.
You know what? You know what? I have had our parent population, and it seems like it's all butterflies and sunshine, but I will say our parent population is actually like, I've had supportive, wonderful parents. I think what I do is that I always set the stage, and I always tell them my philosophy. So we always have back to school night, and I say I lead with 3 things. I lead with my heart, my hands, and my head. I said I lead with my heart because it's going to be, anything I do is going to be rooted in compassion with your children. And my hands is always going to be, I'm always going to make them work hard. We're always going to think through things. But logic steps in, right? And that logic means we have consequences sometimes if we fall out of line. So I'm always going to do everything with compassion, but at the end of the day, the logic will be a consequence. Or I may have to take recess away, or I may have to do something, that kind of resets the tone in the classroom. So parents automatically know I'm fun, but I'm also strict at the same time. And so I really push forward to set that stage at the beginning of every school year. But outside of that, I haven't necessarily had any bad interactions with parents. I'm also a parent teacher, so I'm like, you email me at 11, I'll email you back in the morning. Like, I know I have someone's baby in my class, so I think it's my mindset of that parents need to be in the loop at all times. I'm really big with communication. So I haven't necessarily had any bad interactions. I will say that I'm at a completely American school. So I am I'm part of an embassy connected school.
Okay.
So a lot of the parents are familiar. A lot of their children have Black educators in the past. You have your 1 or 2 parents that are a little crazy, well, I wouldn't say crazy, but that are a little excessive, I should say.
Right.
So
you kind of have
to have a come to Jesus at the beginning of the school year, like a little meeting of like, I'm gonna hear you, but here are my stipulations, right? Like, I'm not going to email you before 48 hours. I'm not going to, give me some time, right? Like, I'm also going to be able to give your kid what they need, but also know I have 22 other students in my class, not just your kid, So like I said, setting the stage quite a lot for these families, and just being very transparent. It has just been my always go-to. But just talking to other educators that are Black at my school, our parents are interesting, but nothing too alarming. Just really concerned parents. Most of our parents are oil. Most of our parents are doctors working at the Cleveland Clinic here. Most of our parents are embassy or Army, so they've moved quite a lot. So some of them, I have not been their first Black educator.
That's
so
great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. Like, listening. I'm sorry, I did not mean to cut you off.
No. I'm done.
Okay. You know what? I chuckled because I just knew it was like I had a feeling that maybe it would be interesting, and it is really, like you said, set the tone from the beginning. It's literally what I have to tell, or I encourage, people in my department, the other people in my department. It's like, it is our job to set the narrative, right? Other people have their misunderstandings about what we do, but I'm gonna tell you specifically what we do. And I'm gonna show you through the work that we're doing in all facets of the school that this is what we are about. Like, and I love what you said. I hope I got it right. Leading with heart, hand, and compassion.
Yeah, leading with heart, hand, head.
Head, okay. The 3 H's.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I like that. You just gave me the title to your episode. And it's so something that I just find alarming is that we'll have students that have lived abroad most of their lives, and especially just they're over in the Middle East, that they've had more exposure and connection with Black educators than some back in the States. I find that to be, what's the right word? Perplexing.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I'm really excited about and happy about is the students, some of the students abroad, especially depending on where you are geographically, because I know there's a huge population of Black people in like the Middle East.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy that these children and their families, they are inoculated into the culture, like into the realness of who we are, like stereotypes being debunked.
Yes.
Really beginning to build connections with, Black people that care for them, not media driven. And it really helps to shape like their perspective and their understanding and their empathy and the ability to really connect with others. And I'm like, I keep thinking, so I've been thinking like about, okay, do I want to stay in China? I was like, nah, I'm leaving. And then I made the decision to stay, like, finish this year and at least stay another year. And I'm like, I love living international, but where else would I go? Right. And I think about the Middle East a lot because it can be really hard being in a culture that fetishizes Blackness, but hates Black people. And I'm speaking real general here. I have lots of friends of other ethnicities and culture that love me, right? And so I don't speak about those individual connections, but holistically, like, it's not that. It's different. It's a bit more intense and insidious, and some of the attitudes of some families where I am is, how is she in charge? Maybe because I am. Like, check my resume. And this is not even like tooting my horn, but God blessed me to do all the work to get here. Blood, sweat, tears, undermining. I'm not even finna go into it, to be here to help your child. So how about you widen your perspective and recognize that we're here to help your child learn to empathize with others. Stop saying nigga. So that they can go to college and thrive. Can we do that? It's a lot. It's a lot. What do you think about the future of getting more Black people abroad?
I think it's widely more known about now. I think with social media, it is a thing. You have your Black and Abroad Facebook, Instagram website that kind of, shares about how you can go to travel to countries and you won't get kidnapped. Or no, things.
Because that's our thing. Don't go over there. They're gonna snatch you up, girl. My daddy say that. Every trip I take, I'm
that's
like,
my mom.
Don't take me.
That's my mom. But I think that it's more widely known about now. And I see more people at least just like not living, but at least traveling more, And so them being able to go and travel and see that it's not all bad, and that this could probably potentially be a place that they can live. I had a friend that was so against moving. She's like, I want to stay here. She has a son. Her son is around age, single mom. And, I was chatting with her last year and she's just like, I don't know, I can't leave my family. I can't leave my security net. And she's also an educator. Right. And I was like, I get it. I led by myself, and I know that you had that added pressure of having a little one. I didn't
Right.
have that added pressure. But I told her about other friends that I know that are here in the UAE, single parents,
Right.
thriving.
Yes.
Child has more passport stamps than people in their family, you know?
Okay.
So I always say that you don't know until you try,
Right.
and you have to also research, do a lot of research. And but I do think that it's widely known. Like whenever I go home and sit down with family and cousins, and they're like, yeah, I heard about this place. I saw your picture from here. Tell me more about this. Do you have an itinerary now? And so I think it's more of widely accepted and known about for others to move. I think my whole idea with my with my social media page that I have now is to get teachers to move abroad, and it's for teachers to know that like there's quality life outside of the U.S. educational system. I think a lot of educational systems have their similarities, and it's like, okay, I'm over this.
Yeah.
But at the core of what it is, you can live a quality life. You can live tax-free income. You can live someone paying your bills, but still, dealing with all the things of having a job,
Yeah.
but you can live that quality life. Healthcare, like you mentioned earlier, like phenomenal. Like I have another story a little later on about how
Girl.
healthcare has also impacted my life here as well that I would never be able to have in the US.
Yeah.
So being able to just encourage people to know that there's quality life. Like, yes, you will be leaving your family, but we have social media. We have all
Zoom.
the platforms now, Zoom and Google Meet and all
WhatsApp.
these. Yeah, WhatsApp. And then you do have times to where you can just go and spin a stint, especially if you're in education, go home for 2 months, during the summer, or
Yep.
go home for Christmas. They do give you that quality time off, and finding those times to just go and connect with family, but and also knowing that you're going to come and you're going to live a quality life outside the
Yeah.
US. So yeah.
I appreciate that. I even tell people, like, I'm telling you, once you kind of settle in knowing, all right, I'm making the decision to uproot myself. Once you're settled in it, it's not as daunting, right? Now, adjusting it can be challenging. And hopefully the school or whatever entity they're going to work for has a process of onboarding that helps connect them and keep them connected and sharing information and finding housing, which makes that, adjustment process easier, that onboarding process easier. And those are questions that people need to be asking when
Yes.
they're
Yes.
interviewing. And I always encourage, because folks don't really think about the whole mental health aspect of moving abroad. And I'm like, well, a lot of y'all are leaving because you're running from something. So that's a mental health issue right there. So let's be moving toward as opposed to running from. Let's shape that. Let's shift that perspective first. And then when you get there are just very real realities that you are going to have to contend with, like sitting with yourself a lot, because loneliness is baked into being an expat.
Yes.
And it's like, how do you cultivate loneliness in a way that is helpful and not going to be harmful to you? So that is something that I try to get people to understand is, what is your motivation in these different, aspects of possibly moving abroad, being there and thriving? Because there's no point in you doing all this work just to survive. And there will be elements of survival. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But people have to be, they got to recognize, like, it's a big decision, and it's not one to be taken lightly. Like, you got to be practical. You have to be objective. But there's so many benefits. Like, and when you get abroad, you are not going to be worried about, I need to be around my mama. Because if you go home too much, you're going to be itching to hop on a plane and go somewhere else. I cannot be home for more like 2 weeks without, okay, I need a trip. Like, what am I doing?
This is so facts.
Oh my goodness. It is, but you said it. You don't know until you try. And there are so many ways to come abroad and work for a reputable, if you want to do education, a reputable school, because getting in the right place is key.
It is.
Because linking up with more challenging spaces can make your time a bit more difficult to adjust to. I'm curious about, so you shared something about, medical or things of that nature. And I'm curious about, well, I have two questions. So one question is, as you're sitting and reflecting and we're engaging in this amazing dialogue, what has been something that you've been the most proud of since making this move?
I think, like I said earlier, like I'm just really proud that I'm now more globally minded.
Yeah.
I think that I'm very proud of the idea of being able to be here for so long and not, I've had friends that aren't in reputable schools, honestly, and it has been challenging for them.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm proud that I've been able to, and I also went through a stint of loneliness of, I went through all of the feels when I first came. Like my first week, they dropped me off in an empty apartment and I boohoo cried. I boohoo cried for like 2 weeks, and I was like, what did I do? I moved to the Middle East. I heard the call of prayer going off 3 times a day, and I was like, what did I
Like,
do?
what is this?
What
Just
I
time for
do?
this.
What is this? Right. And so I'm more so proud of my like I said, my just being able to sustain for so long. There have been moments where I'm like, you know what, I'm going home. Like I can't do this. And then I think about the adult in me of saying like, no, you're like, it's not a bad day, or it's not a bad week. It's probably just a bad week, or no, it's not a bad day. What's the saying? It's not a
It's
bad
not like a
day, but
bad
it's a,
month or life. It's just a bad day.
yeah, or like not like a bad month, bad life, and you're gonna
Yeah,
have
it's
those
kind of like
days.
reel it back, bring it back
Yeah,
down.
really bad. It's not that serious, but at the same time, also thinking about, like I said, just the benefits of everything. So I'm just more so proud of sustaining. I did have a wrench thrown in. My husband, me and him got married. This is our 3rd year, and so I had that idea of like, should we go back home? You're right. Yeah. Should I go back home, or should we stay? And so that was an added layer of, wow, like he's here now. He had never lived outside of the U.S. And it was interesting for us. It was our first year of marriage, and he was going through some things such as grief and other feelings and emotions, which kind of added on to me. So we were like, should we go back home? We're gonna go back home. But I think the idea of just sustaining and being here for so long, and now I know this place like the back of my hand, and it's home, and I love it, but as anywhere you live, it's like, oh, these things annoy me, but I can get over it though. Like, yeah, I can get over it. Yeah. I think also my idea now understanding how to be more flexible. I was not flexible before I left the US. I was very rigid, and it was like, this is what it is. I can't deal with this. And so I'm proud of my mindset shift of being flexible, of persevering, and not letting the little things shake me up, and just also being open to the idea of flex. Like things are not going to go as planned, and I'm not going to melt down like I used to back in the day, because living abroad is build you up to be like, all right, this is happening. This is happening now. I got to switch my mindset. I had, it's the saying of like, tell God your plans and he laughs at you, So it's like having that idea.
You've been laughing at me, child. Like, what?
Same. But being more flexible, open-minded, to different things that are going to go differently than how I planned. Is big. I mean, language barrier here was bad when I first came, and I was like, I can't even get food delivery. What's happening? Like, I can't talk to people. And then I realized, okay, this is how you speak with no, like I have talking to a friend. She was like, speak with no adjectives or something like that. She was like, just speak verbs, all verbs, speak it, and then you will get what you need. And so
really? That's interesting.
Yeah, because if you speak too much, like for delivery drivers and different things here, they kind of get lost in it. And it's just like, I need this. And it was a pretty tough language barrier. Although English is widely known here, it's still kind of difficult sometimes here. I'm sure the same in China as well, of people kind of understanding you getting what you need.
He can't understand them.
Yeah.
Like, and I've taken classes, and I'm like, okay, ooh, right. I love languages, but learning simplified Chinese has been a whole nother exercise and like fortitude. And I'm
Right.
kind of at the point now where I'm like, okay, I know enough basic stuff to be able to get around, order food, show deference and gratitude. I'm not trying to have a long, drawn out conversation. Now, see, when I move to Portugal, I'm gonna learn Portuguese, start learning Portuguese like a year before. But it's
Yeah.
like I've resigned myself and I accept my level of simplified Chinese at this point.
That,
Okay, so something you said just kind of hit home for me. That idea of flexibility. And when you think about, I know you expounded upon some ways that you've recognized you've had to be flexible. I wonder, do you believe like any of these opportunities for growth would have been present had you stayed home?
no. I was sitting in my comfort at home.
Yeah.
And as you know, when you're comfortable, you never really grow. And I was never looking for opportunities to grow. It was just like, what's familiar to me? Before I had actually even applied to overseas, I was thinking of moving to DC. I was like, I want to move somewhere where I see a lot of us thriving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it was, I had spent my New Year's there with friends, and I had been there for the summers, and it was right. I love DC. I love the DMV area in general. And so I was like, I'm going to move there, but I had this feeling that I would still be comfortable. I would be super comfortable, and I think when you sit in that comfort, it doesn't allow you to grow.
Yeah.
So I think that if I were to stay, I think I would have probably some different realities. But overall, I think moving here has definitely taught me way more about flexibility and resilience than I can ever imagine.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's kind of like you don't know some things. It's like the Johari window. You don't know like the things that you are aware of. I gotta pull up the graphic, but like you don't know what you don't know. And until you're put in certain situations, those particular aspects of your life and personality and things aren't able to be honed and fleshed out and really tended to until they're able to be exercised. And I think that, and I wonder what you think, like moving abroad, there's so much that you learn about yourself in such a rapid amount of time that you kind of got to get yourself together or it's like over. And I'm curious, like when you think about like something I find to be very important is community. And for myself, I found that having a chosen family, choosing people to be a part of your family abroad, for me personally has gone swimmingly and wonderfully well and terribly bad. And
Yes.
I think like in this phase of my life, this iteration of my time here, God has truly blessed me to have cultivated a community of people that see me, care for me, love me, support me. And it's funny because literally all of them are married, which I'm like, okay, is that like a precursor, God? Come on now. But it is so, I'm not going to say anything is impossible, but if we're talking about thriving, being mentally well and connected and being able to just live an abundant life, healthy community is paramount. So what has that looked like for you as you have like chosen and cultivated and excised, people in your community space abroad?
Yeah. So when I first came, you were talking about an onboarding experience earlier, and my school's really good at onboarding.
That's good.
So it was like I was never alone. I think that I pushed some people away a bit because I was new to this whole international living thing, here in the Middle East. Also, I'm naturally introverted, so I'm not a person that will, initiate things. And so I'm kind of like, I'll wait. So it was quite difficult the very first year. And although I did have people that were like, hey, let's come out, let's go out. And I was like, no. So then I met, or the next summer, I came back to Abu Dhabi, and it was bad because I was dating my now husband at the time, and I had just left him, and I was like, I'm gonna come back to this, of like not hanging out on the weekends, of not feeling like I've been so secluded that now if I ask people to hang out, maybe they'll be like, oh, she's acting funny or
Right. Oh,
whatever.
now you want to come around. Like, come
Yeah,
on.
now you're gonna come around. So I was like, I felt like I had slightly like burned bridges a bit. So I was like,
Yeah.
no, Ashley, you have to have community. So I randomly went on Brothers and Sisters of Abu Dhabi, and I was like, hey, I was like, does anyone like to read books? Is there a book club around? So right. So randomly, like all these women like commented under, and usually people don't chat at all on Brothers and Sisters of Abu Dhabi. It's like it's rare.
Okay.
So people replied back, and I had this one girl, and she hopped in my DMs, and she's like, let's set up something. She's like, there is no book club that we know that is, with like-minded Black women. So let's do this thing. And so literally a month later, she set it up, and I met
Love.
15 of the most amazing Black women here in
Oh,
Abu Dhabi.
I
And
love
it
it.
was like, it was like a floodgate that opened up. And when I tell you the support, the love, the happy hours, they threw me a bridal shower.
Oh,
I spent Christmas with one a few, like last Christmas. So like those friendships were something that and those meetings, I should say in itself, because although all of us were cordial, all of us weren't very, very close.
right.
So I was more close to others than usual. That usually happens. You have a group of women, and you probably just connect more to one than the others. But
Right.
just love in itself, whenever I came to those meetings, it was always very therapeutic to kind of talk about life, and to talk about not just our lives, in the past, we talk about currently, like how we're feeling about being Black here in Abu Dhabi, and just being able to have a safe space is something that I was very, very, to this day, we've dwindled down a lot because a lot of us have moved out back home to the US, to Saudi,
Mhm.
a lot of us have moved. So we were just texting last week, and we were like, we have to meet because we're dwindling down. And so I meet with them every once in a while, but when I do, it is just love. It's love, and it's a release of everything. It's a connection. And I'm very grateful for it. I think on the flip side too, my school has now been adding more of us. Adding more of us. We are
And they see the
getting,
value.
listen, so we actually had our first meetup Friday night. And
Oh,
when I tell you it was a
congratulations.
celebration,
Love
it was a
it.
celebration. Yes. And so we met up together to love on each other as well, and to dance and have good food. We had one of my coworkers, she was a DJ, and it was a whole vibe. I invited my husband. My husband actually doesn't work at the same school as me. So
Okay.
that's
That's
another.
probably good.
Yeah, and he's also an educator as well. So he came, and they loved on him, and they accept him. And so, when it's us, it's a whole vibe.
Yeah.
And so I receive love and support from them. I'm not really close with a lot of them, but when we see each other, we support each other. And that's what's important. I know if I do go to them about something, I know that I'll have their support in a second.
Right.
A lot of them work in high school. I work in primary. So I never see them. So we just don't
Right.
really have that kind of connection. Um, and then I also have church people that I go. So I go to church every Sunday, and so I know people at church. We're not very close either, but I know when I see them, it is all love and everything too. And so yeah, I have kind of all of those small communities that I can go and release and receive support from when I need
Yeah.
it. I just sometimes have to push myself because I am super, super introverted. And some weekends I'm like, I don't want to do nothing. I
And
just want
that's
to sit on
good.
the couch.
You got
But
to charge.
yeah, so just being intentional about making those connections has been something that I have had to force myself to do. And like I said, it hasn't been great. I've had some friendships that I'm like, oh no, you got to go. And I've had some wonderful friendships that's like, you are probably a lifelong friend that I'll have
Right.
forever.
Right.
Because you get me, you vibe me, you love me, you see me, as you were saying earlier, you see who I am, and I see who you are, and it's
Yeah.
just a beautiful connection. So I do have some of those handful of friends that I feel like the same thing of, I know they have me mentally. I know they have me spiritually. Yeah, and the majority of my friends are also married too. I was kind of on the outside for a while too. I was like,
I'd be like,
oh,
dang, I'm the TT
but
to everybody. Hey,
yeah,
TT
but they
Kendall.
still
Hey,
love
baby.
me. Exactly. But they still love me. They still,
Yes,
invited me over for Thanksgiving and stuff. I was the single,
yes,
auntie in the corner,
yes.
But it was all love, and it's always been just love with us. And I think that that's the most important thing. And it has really helped me to grow and to thrive here. If I didn't have these communities, I don't think that I would still be here.
Yeah, like I love that for you. Like I really do, especially when you have like your moments of difficulty. I mean, even though like I'm a licensed clinician, I know I struggle with seeking help like most people do whenever we're going through difficult moments.
Yeah.
And so with the weather changing, and I have to prepare myself for this because like literally every year around November, like the seasons change, we get into winter. I get seasonal affective disorder. Like I get seasonal depression literally it's like clockwork. And during those moments, I find it very hard to just thrive. Some days get out of bed, like literal depression. And it is nothing like having friends that have recognized, all right, she's been too quiet. What's
Yep.
going on? I
Exactly.
need to check in. I need to be a little bit more forceful with her at this point because I know what she shared happens to her around this time. And for people that may be more introverted or someone like me that really does struggle to share what's happening if moments are difficult, or those people, and I can say this is probably me too, that really have a hard time opening up because some people who you've trusted don't show up for you. So then it's like, what's the point?
Exactly.
I'm not even gonna say battle through. I'm gonna suffer through.
Mm-hmm.
Alone. Whoever's watching this, I just really want you to know you cannot do that. Like, if you want to be healthy mentally, you cannot do that. You cannot do it. You have to allow. Someone said this to me like a few weeks ago, because I've had like stuff happen in my family in the last few months, and it's just been difficult. And someone said, you have to allow people to demonstrate that they do care for you and they will show up. It is risky, but you have to allow them to show you that. And it's when you sit and think about it, it is all about being flexible and taking a risk and really putting your heart out there. But in order to do well abroad, these are things that you have to be able to work through and trust yourself, right? That one, your intuition to connect and collect good people isn't broken. Because another person's stuff is not about you.
Yeah.
So you'll have duds, but then you're going to have those that you really, really, really gel with. Like you said, those lifelong friends. I got friends that have moved all over the world and we stay connected. It's like you have to be intentional about being in people's lives if those people really matter to you. And I was listening to something you offered about how maybe you're not as close to everyone, which isn't healthy either, right? We're not meant to be like good friends with everybody. We got to really recognize, what do these people's roles play in my life and what role do I play in theirs? Like, I don't want to overestimate my importance to you. So when we link up, it's all love. And do y'all have affinity groups and stuff in your school? Is that something that y'all are leaning toward?
What's an affinity group?
Okay, so an affinity group is more so, well, maybe not. Okay, so it's more so for your marginalized populations to have a support network built into like the school. So where I am, we're gonna start an affinity group for Black educators because there's not a large percentage of us. In fact, it's grown exponentially this year. Like last year, it was myself and another friend of mine, a Black guy in high school. That was it. And now we have maybe 6 or 7. So that's a lot. And then we have more in middle school, more in elementary. So having that safe supportive space that you can go do things or just sit and have some real world conversations to kind of process how to work through difficult situations. I find to be really important. And maybe so for like Muslim students in my school, because we have a growing population of Muslim students. And how do we begin to be culturally responsive to the growing populations of like our community? That is literally the foundation of the work that I do. Some people are on board and some people are like, I don't pay attention to those. But
I know what you're saying without you even saying it.
Girl, listen, because I tell people this all the time. Like, someone said to me, there are far more people rooting for you than aren't. I'm like, well, can y'all speak up?
Yeah.
Can y'all speak up? Can y'all just, I don't even need your recognition. I just say something positive about the things that you notice, because the people that are wrong be super loud and they love to collect folks to try to change their thinking. So the ones that get it, the ones that understand the mission and want to do the work, speak up. Like, that is the only way that's one of the ways to change the culture of a school, because it is nothing like coming into a school with a rotten culture.
Mm-hmm.
I just,
yeah.
Ooh,
I would say, so for that purpose, yes, we do. Like, that's the meeting that I said I had on Friday of us dancing and stuff. So we do have a Black, and it's not really marginalized per se, of like other minority groups, but it's just a Black American group that we do have at my school. There's around 15 of us now.
Oh, a lot.
If not more, yeah, across elementary to high school. And so we do find times to where we can meet. Now, last year we weren't as great and as intentional. And we mentioned that on Friday. We said we should meet way more often. But we do, it is a safe space for us to just kind of comment in, check up on each other, send positive vibes, or just to connect with each other. People that have recently went through something difficult that we know of, we're able to kind of text them on the side or whatever, because we're all on that same chat. And so we do have that, to where we can, like I said, connect with each other, and kind of share those similar experiences. But the whole idea of talking about like actual support of us going through things, I don't think necessarily we have had that type of vibe. I would say, I think all of us are in, like I said, I don't really connect with any of the people that are in high school, middle schools. I never see them. And so we have to be a lot more intentional, I think, this school year. And we mentioned that, of just being there for each other during difficult times. And it's just something that we have to work on as a group. Right. But yes, we do have a group. And we try to meet up every once in a while. We're going to have our next meetup after New Year's, but we're thinking about doing something before that. And so we were intentional about at least setting that up, because we were like, all right, it gets the second semester and we kind of fade out. Yeah. But we need to kind of still be here and celebrate together and love on each other. So yeah, we have that group for sure.
I love that. I think it definitely has to happen, no matter like where you are, is finding and that doesn't mean that all of us that look alike have similar lived experiences. Hey. What they say, all skin folk and kinfolk. So, and kinfolk. It's like, you're right, but it's kind of like, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to prove me wrong, but I'm gonna trust and see, hopefully you might be right. I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt first, and then it's on you. So I have just a few more questions. Like, we've talked about the importance of like community as a vehicle of thriving, right? And just being able to feel connected. If you were to give like an elevator pitch, which is literally what you said you were trying to do, and would definitely share with me like the pursuits that you have, to other like Black educators that want to come abroad, I wonder, how would you describe the experience in a way that would pique the interest of someone that, like us, knows that we want to leave or move and transition, just not quite sure where, and then like being abroad being an actual viable option?
Mm-hmm. I would tell them that, know your purpose. I think you mentioned that earlier, of really truly knowing your purpose. And I don't really think that I shared my big purpose, which was
Go
the
for it.
idea of living a quality life, just
Yeah.
well-being. And I think I did, yeah, making sure that I have a salary package that's
Yeah, you have.
comparable. Yeah. So I would say for you to think about like knowing your purpose. And I would also encourage people to know that there's quality life outside the US, that there's life that you can travel and you can meet different people, experience different cultures, and also that you can find a job also within this realm of like, I guess they call them quality schools, is what we talked about, those tier
Mhm.
one schools. So making sure that you do your research on these schools, do your
Right.
research on all of the location that you would like to go to. I think sometimes we have this made up idea, because I didn't travel to actually to the UAE before I came. Actually, I just came, and but I had researched quite a lot. I had spoke to people. So do your research on the location that you're going to. Connect with someone. There's so many Facebook groups out there, so many Facebook groups
Yeah.
that you with people and get real life experience, like how we're doing right now, is kind of
Yeah.
sharing those firsthand experiences. So yeah, I just said quite a lot. Do your research, think about your purpose, and just know that there's just such a quality life, not even just here in the UAE, but in other places as well. Like you just mentioned Portugal a while ago. I keep hearing about everybody moving to
Girl,
Portugal,
it is
and how
literally,
amazing it is. Yeah, me and my husband actually want to go visit just to see
go.
how it is and everything. Yeah.
You will
So
love it. Those were some of the first
yeah, no,
people that I interviewed through a connection.
yeah.
It's funny how you
Okay.
connect with people. Like it's always been on my mind, Barcelona, Portugal, Barcelona, Portugal. Then I started meeting people from Portugal, like just
That's
out
like
the
that.
troves,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, that's it. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. But just knowing your purpose, like I said, and just knowing that there is quality life out there, and also knowing that it's gonna create growth for you. It may be tough at first, but as soon as you find your footing, it's gonna be phenomenal, and you're gonna really appreciate that you took this step to move out of your comfort zone. So
Yeah, I
that's
love
what I
that.
tell people. Yeah.
I love that. You know what? I couldn't even imagine my life without having done what I've done. I don't even know what life would look
Same.
like had I still been back in Texas.
Mhm.
I just I know it wouldn't be this.
No.
And it is just like being able choosing, not even being able to. Well, yeah, being able to make a decision where you bet on yourself. It is the best, scariest, most rewarding thing
Well put.
ever.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
ever. So then when we have these moments of like self-doubt and can I actually do this thing? It is just to reflect on like you literally moved to a whole nother continent on your own.
Yes.
Oh now. Let's now
On
let's
your
let's look at the
own.
evidence by
Yep.
yourself,
Mhm.
growing, helping people, helping families, saving lives. So why would you
Mm.
not be able to do this smaller scale thing? And as I'm saying this, I'm like really kicking myself in the butt and it's making me motivated to do the thing that I've been putting off for like months. Why would you
Mm.
not be able to do this smaller scale thing that's going to have just as much impact when you've done this huge life transformational
How powerful.
thing?
How powerful.
Right?
So powerful.
Like, oh, I'm about to have a moment. I feel it. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I'm gonna have a moment when I get off this call. So I'm okay. So healing is literally like the theme of this iteration of my life. And so I do like a word of the year every year. And my word for this year that is quickly passing is trust.
Mm.
And definitely trusting myself to make good decisions, to connect with good people, to put myself out there. And I'm wondering, as a beautiful, educated, thriving Black woman in Abu Dhabi, what do you feel like you need to live a more healed and thriving life?
Um, I think that I need to um hmm, that's a like I said, I mentioned it a little while ago that, like, you know, I'm not as close with other friends as possible. And so I think, and then you also reminded me of my mission this year is vulnerability, is because
Mm,
I have a hard time being vulnerable.
yeah.
And I have a hard time being vulnerable anywhere, work, within my personal relationships. And I think that for me, I would like to work on creating more of those vulnerable moments within my friendships. I feel like my friendships, I don't know, I talked about community a lot, but I have been wondering how can I deepen my community experience, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I feel like I'm very surface level because of the ideas of being burnt in the past before, and experiencing traumatic things with friendships. And
Yep.
so I have been praying, not just for myself, but to also meet like-minded um, friendship groups that are married. And so kind of thinking about putting, you know, me and my husband putting ourselves out there in churches and kind of being more present there, being more present with the friendship groups that I have now that also have husbands as well.
Yeah.
Um, so I think in order to continue to thrive here, I would just like to deepen my connections. Like I have community, but I feel like sometimes it's very like surface level, and I would like to kind of have more of those deeper experiences with the people
Yeah.
around me. But that starts with me. Right? That starts with me being able to just be vulnerable in general.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that I am currently working on, but I know that that would perhaps have me to thrive more. I always think about, granted, I have never had anything tragic happen here to me. And I have friends that I can call on, but it's still in the back of my brain of like, I don't have that one friend that even my husband can like say, hey, something's going on.
Yeah.
Um, I have friendships and everything like that, but I want to deepen my friendships and to go past the surface level of things. And the friends that I did make those connections with, they've left. But I still have people here. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like right whenever we get there, you leave, you
Like,
know.
hey,
Um,
come on. Now I gotta start over.
yeah, you gotta start all over. So I think just the purpose, and then also vulnerability is something that I'm working towards
Yeah.
this year. And it's been a lot better with me kind of making those steps, like I said. And sometimes, like you said, everybody is not your friend. Everybody is not for you, and you are not for everybody as well. So kind of coming to grips with that
Yep.
and just building these purposeful relationships, like I said, that just require that vulnerability on my side, because I can let a wall up quite a lot.
Easily.
Um,
Girl, I swear
yeah.
we are
So
like like a
let,
little twin
let
in
that
here.
wall down, yeah, and just saying, you know what, you can try this out. You know, you've been let down in the past. So when you mentioned that out, it was just like, oh, that's exactly how I am, and I know I
Yeah.
have to get better at
Yeah.
letting people show up for me. I have to get better at um um checking in on others. Sometimes I can go a month without talking to folks, and it's like, all right, Ashley, you got to get it together. Like,
Right.
you have to be more purposeful. You have to be vulnerable in this purpose as well. And so I think that's what I've been working on towards to get better and to kind of thrive in this space that I am in life right now.
I love that for you. Like, so one of the things I really love about like doing this work, this element of work, is that it's not a therapy session, but sometimes it feels like a therapy session
Yeah, it
where
does.
it kind of unlocks things that may have been sitting latent for people, and myself included. And I'm feeling an energy of like in your situation right now that you've really identified goals to be able to set around strengthening and rebuilding community, because it's very hard to rebuild community once you've established good connection with people and then they transition. That's grief. Like, that's things that we have to work through as adults, and then make the decision, okay, do I want to do this again?
Right.
But then it's like, if you're gonna stay here, you kind of have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will be sending you all the prayers, the good juju, all the good stuff that you
Same to
can kind
you.
of
Same
tap
to
into
you.
that. And you got to definitely keep me updated on how it's going. And so I want you to share with us, how do we stay connected with you? How do we follow your journey? How do we support the work that you're trying to do in the world?
Yeah. So, like I said, I started my Instagram page a while ago, and it's just I'm highlighting different things, such as how do you even start the idea of moving abroad and just the different possibilities and realities of what life could look like. And so you can follow me on Instagram on Teach with Passion and Purpose. And then also same thing on Facebook. I have an Instagram page or a Facebook page, Teach with Passion and Purpose as well. And so hopefully we can connect soon and I can share more about my experience and potentially connect you with people that could help you your transition over to wherever you'd like to go internationally. And so that's how you can contact me.
Awesome. Thank you. Listen, I'm glad that you're doing this work of setting an honest, right example of being able to do the things that we love to do professionally, just do it somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
And reap the respect that we deserve, reap the benefits, reap the quality of life. Just reap the opportunity to, I say this, I've been saying this after one of my affirmations, living a life that feels like home and that's aligned, that makes more sense. That doesn't necessarily have to be where you're born from, right? As we're evolving as people, we'll recognize that we do need more, and to want more is not a problem, right? To want more than what we've been born into or what our community tells us we're only deserving of having does not have to be our reality. And if we just trust ourselves to see that there's so much opportunity out there. Like one of the things that I say on this platform is that, we live abundantly everywhere. And I really feel like the more that we are all interconnected, the more that we can kind of widen the opportunities for people that we know and care about or don't know, but get to know. So thank you.
I think it's
go
that
ahead.
yeah, I think it's that mindset as well. Like I know on a different aspect, my husband says, and I say to him sometimes, like, we got people say, well, where's home? And we always say home is where we are with each other. So I think sometimes it's just the mindset of that as well. So I wanted to just make that quick connection.
Yeah, thank you for that. It kind of seals it up nicely.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for you sharing this time with me today. I've learned so much. Another beautiful, thriving Texas lady in the world.
Yes. Thank you for having.
It's amazing. So everyone, as always, I want to say thank you for tuning into another fantastic episode of the Black Expat Experience. I encourage you to keep taking risks, impacting your communities, and always prioritizing your mental health. We grow through your support, so please share this in your communities. Make sure you're subscribing to us on all podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. Give us a good review. And if you want to be a guest, let us know. But I hope that you gleaned something amazing from this great episode. And with that, I'm going to say thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you later. Bye.